A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Survival of No Limits. So here we go with today, and the topic that I have that is basically quite dangerous by any means. If you're familiar with cryogenics, then the science to have an entire body being frozen for a long period of time and then revitalized after a certain point where a cure could either be found for the disease that's affecting you or otherwise. The science to have that take place still has not been discovered. But the closest thing that we could probably have is having our entire bodies frozen inside a refrigeration unit. But of course, this would most likely end in our own demise. A demise that would rather be avoided at any cost. Being locked inside of a refrigeration unit has itself its share of dreams and wonders that most people in the public eye could basically view as a good idea or even a bad idea. It mostly all depends on what certain factors are being put into play, but in this particular instance, let's just say that being locked inside a refrigeration unit, whether it be a giant refrigerator that you have in a restaurant or basically something that you have at home that has a lot of Freon tanks built into it as a way to keep a lot of things nice and cold and chilled to a point where you could basically have an entire party's worth of alcoholic beverages ready for usage. But the thing is, when handling these giant fridges, sometimes the locking system that is utilized to prevent the cold air from interfering with the warm air, or maybe the opposite, where the warm air might try to seep into the cracks and the holes and get inside the refrigerator, causing a bit of a displacement in terms of thermodynamic properties, which of course would result in extreme humidity and sometimes interference with the electrical systems that control the Freon tanks. Of course, being locked inside a refrigeration unit, the only real good reasons to probably have it would be to either escape from a massive heat wave or solar flare that would be liable for causing a lot of issues out there, or of course, if you're wanting to defend yourself against the Blob. Yeah, if you remember that scene from the remake of Blob 1988, some of the main characters had locked themselves inside a giant freezer and the Blob was unable to get in because it ended up getting frozen on contact. So, as delightful as that sounds, basically, to finally find a good defense against the Blob, it certainly is not at all a good idea. The first thing you might want to get to know about when it comes to being locked inside, whether by accident or as a dare, is the dangers of hypothermia. And I've talked a lot about hypothermia in recent times. But that's only because it never stops coming. When you're locked inside a refrigeration unit, it's indifferent in this case. A scenario where you might get locked inside a freezer or otherwise can indeed last for quite a while. Quite a while. And the process of hypothermia is indeed able to set in. Depending on the temperature of the freezer, it can take quite a while to do so. But for the most part, most common refrigerators that have built-in freezers, be it on the top or the side or even the bottom, a lot of times you can't really find yourself trapped inside of it because refrigerators do times have a suction mechanism as a way to keep the doors closed, sometimes magnets to keep them put together so they don't easily open back up, and usually there's no locks put in, which can be a good idea for the most part. But in any case that does happen, where a child might be able to fit inside of it, it would certainly be extremely dangerous to have something like that. And it's without a doubt extremely lethal. So the bottom line here is that you do not want to get yourself locked inside of refrigeration units of any sorts. Whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're on the job hunt or otherwise, getting locked inside one would not at all be a good idea. So that's just pretty much what that's all about here. But we can at least agree that with weather like this, I tell you, right now it's a bit of an average day right here in August, but that's just sort of what the whole entire thing is when it comes to utilizing the best approach. But let's also not forget that lots of new content is on the rise. And I tell you, the usage of I Found It First, Megapix Weekly, and as well as my big resurgence of the Enlightening Venture episodes certainly is, without a doubt, quite a big deal to me. So, without a doubt, I will say that things are certainly looking up to the way they are. And I'm certainly proud of myself for how far I've already gotten throughout this whole season here. So let's make sure that we continue going on as long as possible. So if you want to see more go down on my channel, then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.